Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up, everybody? So we're just going to do a quick live stream, nothing major here, just to kind of give you guys an update as to what's going on. I didn't do a live stream or a video upload this week. There really wasn't any purpose. There wasn't much to talk about. Bitcoin was going in the direction we were expecting it to go. Gold came off, just like I said in Friday's live stream. If we go look at gold real fast, if you remember when we did the live stream, we were pushing up, right? And I said I wouldn't be. Actually, we were on this day right here. It was when we had the Fed. That's when the last time I was live, we had the Fed meeting. That was on this day right here. If you remember on that live stream, I said it would not surprise me a bit to see gold all the way back down here by the end of next week. And here we are at the end of next week. Here we are. Gold is popping from April's open. So if we go look at the monthly chart, in a sense, what you've done here is you've made a lower high, but May just got started, 15 days ago, to be fair. So you're halfway through the month on gold. You don't have an engulfing or anything. All you have on gold is an inside monthly candle. So, I mean, it is a choppy month. So if you got chopped up in all this, I understand. I mean, that's just, price is chaotic. It's impossible to predict the next move. If it wasn't impossible to predict the next move, I would own an island in the south of France. But I don't, because I have to use stop losses because I don't know what's going to happen. So what we currently have right now is all your shorts on gold took profits here. And anybody that was looking to be a buyer on gold bought here. I mean, you can see it intraday. Like, look at this. Your first 15-minute candle came in 15 minutes before the London session open. I mean, London session open for me is 3 a.m., so this was an hour before the London session. Your London session got started right here. So here was your London open. The first 30 minutes of the London open, you dropped, and then you just rallied all day. And then New York has since come in and picked up the rally. Here's 8:30. Excuse me. In Forex terms, we generally see the market start to pick up around 8 o'clock in the morning, even though the New York Stock Exchange doesn't open until 9:30. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, and gold has only went up. Now, what I was looking at here for a potential scalp on Bitcoin, let me move you up over here. I'm literally watching Bitcoin and the S&P. Here, let me pop this out and that should, okay, perfect. So here's your cash market on the SPX. This is your yearly open up here. Literally told you guys yesterday on Twitter and in the Discord, it's going to be very difficult for me to buy this right here because we're testing it from underneath the level. So obviously I would expect resistance to come in here for a day or two or a week or two, but ultimately I do expect the markets to continue to move up, right? Up, because that's what they generally do. You got your VIX escalate or going down in a nice normal manner. Everything looks good. But for the day today, you literally could have shorted Bitcoin if you were looking for an intraday scalp. Your target would have been low of day. And that's not a great risk to reward profile. So I didn't take the short because low of day would have been right here. So if you shorted hourly supply, right, your target would had to been just above low of day. And if you did that, good for you. You made some money today. You're done for the day. What we're watching here is we're watching to see if gold will just dump, right? See if any of the sellers want to jump back on gold trade, seeing how it's gotten a really good bounce. But I'm not expecting that. But before I could get super bullish on Bitcoin, which I did buy Bitcoin, I'll show you. I basically bottom ticked it because this is what I was looking for on this 4-hour candle. I was first watching 4-hour support, but I noticed that there's a literal intraday double bottom down here. So I'm not going to buy 4-hour support as long as that double bottom is down there threatening, right? That's a liquidation. So I just set my limit buy, right? That's how you can tell I limit buy. I'm 30x long on this with $2,000 and I'm only paying $12. So that's a limit order. That's maker fees, not taker fees. But anyway, I bottom ticked it. It filled my limit and then immediately started to reverse. However, I'm not seeing gold do what I wanted to see it do for me to even jump in that trade. I seen this action right in here, and that was at the exact same time that Bitcoin was literally liquidating this double bottom in today's range. So if we go back down to the main monitor and we look at the liquidation profile down here, now remember, this is just an indicator. All right, this ain't legit. Like, no one knows where the orders really are, but it's just an indicator and it goes off limit orders. There's less liquidity down here. So it does seem as if though the market would want to trade higher and to go up there and grab this liquidity. So in a sense, I'm just looking to get long for a trade back up to roughly 105, right? And then I'll exit and then I'll wait for another good setup. Gold's making a fresh daily high right now. But that might not be good for the Bitcoin long today. I mean, we got a nice little reaction upon liquidating that double bottom. Here's the double bottom, right? This first low, and then right at 9:30, here's the 9:30 New York session open. You get a move lower, and then you go down and you fall just shy of taking out the low of day. I never want to get long in that scenario because it's not always going to happen, but it's almost a given that at some point this could be threatened. So I'm not wanting to buy this and put a stop here because it's more than likely going to get triggered at some point during the day, especially if price is hanging around down here at the low of day. This is your high of day up here. So the whole time price was trading in this area. Where is my epic pen? Give me 1 second. I gotta find it because I shut the computer off. Let this thing pop up real quick. And then which one of these monitors is it going to pop up on? Got it. Perfect. Okay, so while price is literally trading in here, then I can't really be a buyer as long as this low has not been taken out yet. So in order for me to even get long, and I don't really want to get long because the order flow is bearish in today's range, right? It's not bearish on a yearly basis or on a monthly basis. It's today, just today, order flow is bearish. So it's a very difficult trade to get long. And I definitely can't short it down here. The high of day is all the way up at 103.9. Price is trading $2,000 away from that. So if this low is here, then obviously you gotta wait. So what I would really like to see to basically, I'm going to take profits on this trade here in a second because, I mean, it's up nicely. I jacked the leverage up because I knew it was going to be, and that trade has to get stopped out. Here. I mean, it's a $400 profit, right? Not great, not terrible, but I'll take it, all right? I'll take it. And I'll leave a small piece on just in case 4-hour support does hold. But first, let's go back over here. So I would want to see gold come off. Like if I started to see gold fail up here for any reason at all, then I could feel a little bit more confident in holding that long. And it's not, gold doesn't necessarily trade inverse to Bitcoin. I don't want you to mistake what I'm saying. It's just right now it is. You know what I mean? It doesn't usually, because they both trade against the dollar. If you have a really bullish dollar, then chances are you're going to have a bearish gold and a bearish Bitcoin. But things have been going a little bit different lately because we knew that all the money ran out of Bitcoin into gold for this year. So we were expecting that Bitcoin was going to bottom and start to turn around and go back to the upside. Then we would want to see at least a little bit of profit take place on gold. And we got that move. So I'm not really from this point forward. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to be watching gold to trigger Bitcoin trades. Right now, what we're doing in the Trade Talk Discord, or the plan for the day, is simple. We're going to watch 4-hour support. And I told people already in the room that if you do get back above 4-hour support, then you could potentially be a buyer and then use your stop against this new fresh low of day. Because here's the thing. It's almost 12 o'clock. I'm usually done trading at this point. The fact that I'm even still sitting at my monitor as of right now is kind of, usually I'm done, right? But I told them if they wanted to get long, they could use their stop against this low and then just buy it upon price getting back above the 4-hour support level. So that way, if 4-hour support holds, because we don't know if it will, we never know if it will, but if it does hold, then you'll be positioned nicely with a nice little risk limit down here, or market, not a limit on your stop. It always has to be a market order. Then really and truly, if you just get back up to old daily support, which would be a little bit above the midpoint of today's range, you could take profits, maybe stop to break even. That way, if Bitcoin does get bullish in this flagging formation here, then you could potentially be positioned nicely for another, big candle to the upside. Bitcoin is literally just a couple percent off of the all-time highs. So you can't be bearish at this point anymore. In my opinion, you could no longer be bearish upon support holding at your yearly open, because your yearly trend is no longer bearish. Right? And if you're a trend trader, you need to trade in the direction of the trend. And right now, the yearly candle is a bullish candle. That literally means, objectively, the trend on the year is up. So you want to be a buyer, but not every day. Now, we also put on our momentum oscillator here. You can see that we did get some nice momentum. We broke back out above overbought up here. Now, this is a daily time frame. Weekly has broken above your super bullish momentum spot on the oscillator, which is anything above 60. It indicates that the bulls are in control of momentum. So you definitely want to be a buyer, but you can't be a buyer until you get a support check and a support hold. The only way to know if that's going to happen or not is to mark an objective level, like 4-hour support, and watch how price reacts around that objective price. And that's all I do on a daily basis. That's all you have to do on a daily basis. But as of right now, on the day, order flow is bearish. Now, if you look at the SPX, it says different, right? Your daily is up now. So this is the open. This is absolute garbage trading here. This is yesterday's range. Here's your open of the day. Here's your close. You're unchanged on the day. You're unchanged on the week. Pretty much, you're in an area of potential resistance, so you can't necessarily be a buyer. You're also opened above the high edge of the expected move for this week. I mean, that pretty much takes buying right out the window. But I can't be a seller either, because this isn't bearish. On an objective basis, you're still red on the year. However, after making fresh yearly lows and then going all the way back up, that is not a bearish signal. That is the exact opposite of bearish. Remember, when it gets bearish, you see shit like this. Little pullbacks, right? This is a gigantic candle. This is a exhaustion candle. This is one of the biggest daily candles that has ever happened on this index. This was a 10% day on the S&P. You're talking about an index that on average closes like under 1% a day. That's like 10 standard deviations above normal, or 9 standard deviations above what a normal day looks like in this market. You know what I'm saying? That is very much an exhaustive candle. That very much says, hey, the big shorts have taken profits, to say the very least. And then the reason prices generally go up slower is because that's how the market works, right? So that's pretty much where we stand. That's pretty much where we stand. So I'm probably no longer going to be watching gold from here on out. If you want to be a seller of gold, then I really don't know where to tell you to watch, to be honest with you. Maybe May's open. Maybe. Let me kill that music. It's absolutely driving me crazy. Okay, so maybe there. At May's open, and then I would want to see resistance build in there, because once again, this asset is very bullish. Very bullish. It is starting to pull off of overbought on the weekly. That's not a sell signal by far. Why is there 2 anchored VWAPs? It's not a sell. Oh wait, I wanted to see where that 21 is. Yeah, I mean, you're way still very far away from this. I mean, you could short it for maybe a return to the mean trade or something like that, but I mean, you're still going against the overall trend. The overall trend is very bullish. I would assume this is profit taking more or less. You start closing dailies back above the 21 on a daily time frame, then I cannot be short the asset. It's just my rules. In a choppy environment here, where you're trading inside monthly ranges, last month's range, you're inside of that. The moving average on a daily time frame isn't going to be very helpful, because you can get that sideways chop, that emotional chop that we normally see in these ranges. You could close a day above the 21 and then drop back below it. I mean, just look at what Aussie CAD's been doing to us. This was a beautiful signal at the yearly opening range, a nice bearish engulfing, like a beautiful short signal. 4 days later, you throw in a bullish engulfing. 2 days later, you're pulling back to the midpoint of the bullish engulfing. I mean, this kind of stuff right here is what chops retail apart. You're not trending, you're sideways. And sideways markets are difficult to get a good signal on. We leave that crap alone. Bitcoin's been sideways for 8 days. Nice bullish momentum going into this area. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of chop. And today's no different. So I do like to see that it is pulling back, and I do love to see that the sellers are not here. They're just not here. All of this chop is profit taking at best. At best. If sellers were here, you would see a candle that looks like that, right? You would see a very big, momentous candle. If there was actual, natural fear selling happening in the markets. That's not what we're seeing right now. We can pull up the fear and greed index, because all the media is still acting like there is still a tremendous amount of fear out there. And that is literally just not the truth, right? We are in greed territory in the stock market. And we were on Wednesday also, when they were literally talking to Powell and saying, since there's so much fear and uncertainty out there, like, notice how many times those 2 words were used in that press conference. They're literally trying to roll the market over. And then the crypto, it's greed. You're greed on both crypto and stocks. That it's no longer a bear market. You got to switch your biases when the marketplace changes, no matter what your beliefs are, no matter what your biases are. You got to do what price is doing. You got to flip when the market flips. You got to be able to identify, when is this thing done, being bearish? When is it done being bullish? You got to know that in order to be able to even throw a trade on. But I don't short low of days, and I generally don't buy high of weeks or high of days. So we'll see if this 4-hour support holds. I would say there's no big news really scheduled for the rest of the week. We did get the Michigan consumer report out, and it came in higher than or actually, what did it do? That's for tomorrow. That's not today. Okay, so that's tomorrow. Oh, it was retail sales. We were looking at PPI and retail sales. PPI came in worse. Worse than expected. In negative territory down here, negative 50. I mean, there's no high impact news, is what I'm trying to say, for the rest of the week. You're at the end of the week. Today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday. We're not really expecting a whole lot. Now, this Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report has been moving the markets as of late. But I mean, with the VIX going back down, it's not normal. It is still very much elevated. Still very much elevated. Anything above 15 is elevated VIX. To be honest with you, I mean, a normal VIX is under 15, like 14 to 12. I don't know if we'll ever get back to a 9 on the VIX. You know what I mean? And back in the day, that's what was a normal VIX. 9 to 12. That was normal. But since we had the Rona dump, this thing hasn't even gotten back to 9. Or back to 10, I don't think. But, as long as it continues to come off, there is a gap up here. All of these gaps have been filled. All of them. So the only gaps now left on the VIX would be this gap that was just made a couple days ago. You've got a small gap down here and a small gap down here that may never get filled. All right. But as long as it's migrating lower, then you need to be bullish. So clearly all the vol sellers, they made the right call. They made the right call. When I say they, I mean we. We made the right call. When volatility gets jacked up like that, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm selling way out of the money stuff, because premiums are jacked up. But anyway, that's what we're looking for on Bitcoin. We're going to see if 4-hour support can hold today and see what happens after. You know what I mean? See what happens after. That purple line is just an anchored volume weighted average price. I have it set on my favorites right here. You can find that over here on the toolbar. I don't think you can see it. It's going to be in the forecasting and measurement tools. And then it's going to be under volume based. You'll see it. You don't have to use the indicator. You can just star that, throw it on your toolbar down here, and just pop it on the open of every day. And that'll just basically show you who is in control of order flow based on volume. Based on volume all day, it's been a bearish day. On the S&Ps, though, on the futures, if we go look at that real quick, you can see intraday, the VWAP has pretty much held all day's range. So order flow was pretty good all day. Tesla struggling, choppy inside day. Apple finally broke out to the upside. You're making a fresh high of day right now as we speak. Microsoft, I understand you can't see that chart, but Microsoft is also making a fresh high of day. You can't see this chart, but you can see this is today's candle. I mean, Apple and Microsoft are the two biggest in the S&P 500. So as long as they're bullish, It's going to be very difficult for the S&P to be bearish today. NASDAQ, choppy AF around that VWAP. AF. So it was not an easy trade today on the NQ. ES, pretty simple. Remember, you got to be patient if you're starting to close 5-minute candles under that intraday VWAP. You can take longs, just make sure you got your stop situated. If you're only trying to scalp out 10 points, which is what I do, that is my daily goal. When I take a short or a long on the ES futures, I'm only looking for 10 points. I'm only risking 4 to 5. That's kind of what we got. I mean, all in all, just a kind of a choppy, low range day. I do need to go up there and take profits on that Bitcoin trade. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Good morning, good morning. Thanks for going live. Hey, it's my pleasure. I'll start going live more often as long as my internet stays stable like it is. I mean, I'm not dropping any frames, so it should not be spinning up on your end. We're holding. Took a profitable short today on Waifu USDT 1.13 entry out of 50% at one spot 032. Nice job. With leverage. Be careful using leverage. Be careful. Leverage is a double-edged sword. I'm watching 32.10 for potential gold short. Yeah, be careful shorting gold. Clearly. I mean, 32.10, you're currently at 32.19 on the futures. So be careful. Tesla. Yeah, let's go look at Tesla. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen. We are. So here we are. I mean, obviously you broke out of your monthly range. It was trading range bound. Last month, we were inside the previous month's range. So whenever that happens, a lot of people will sell out of the money calls and out of the money puts. Generally, they're not going to sell out of the money puts unless price is close to the midpoint of that range. But you can clearly, let me clean this stuff up a little bit. You can clearly see that just with the, I guess the good news, the lower inflation. Inflation is trending down on both CPI and PCE. So, I mean, I don't know where everybody's talking about high inflation. Maybe they're talking about it coming later. Right now, it's currently trending down. However, inflation does generally trail a month. So, maybe next month it starts to go back up. I don't know. But we're not seeing the markets price in inflation. Everybody's screaming it from the top of the rooftops, but the market ain't pricing it in. So until the market starts pricing it in, I'm not worried about inflation. But you broke out. This is a short squeeze. It's currently happening. It already happened. So, I mean, you smoked March's high right here and then had a huge gap up after. That's a short squeeze. It's going to be difficult to be a buyer up here. Naturally, it's still bearish on the year, but you don't have much further to go before you're back to being up on the year again. All-time highs is way up there. I wouldn't be looking for all-time highs this year on Tesla. If it can just get back to being up on the year, that would be amazing, considering all of the problems that Tesla is having, that Tesla has had the last couple of months. All right. But Tesla is a very risky stock, and whenever people start to take profits out of your safer assets and go back into the risk markets, meaning tech, S&P, the NASDAQ, stuff like that, they're just naturally going to buy Tesla. They're just naturally going to buy Tesla. So Tesla is going to always see gains whenever the rest of the marketplace is moving back into corrective territory or just all and outright bullish again. Tesla will get bullish. So as of right now, there's really nothing you can do with it. You need to wait for a pullback. Down in here, this is when I would have started to become bullish or started to look for those bullish trades on Tesla on an intraday basis. Once you started closing dailies above the 21 exponential moving average on the daily, that's important. and also above the 50 on the RSI. Because that says that there's a good chance that as long as the next day isn't a trap or the next day after that. So once you get that close, that first initial close, if it's going to remain bullish, chances are you're probably not going to get an entry on the very next day. Because traps are set like that all the time. I mean, look at this strong close above and then a gap down the next day. And then boom, back to the bottom edge of the range. All right. So if you would have been a buyer on this day here, you would have gotten smoked. But generally, once this starts to form on the chart, on the daily chart, then I can start looking to be a buyer at a major inflection point. A major inflection point is going to be what I call resistance and support, and or major inflection points, which will be monthly open closes, swing highs and swing lows, and midpoints. Because you can see here that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, Tesla did not close a bearish day under February 2025's low. Not one daily candle could close under that price. And you did open under that price here, but you closed back above it there. Next day, you came back in to retest the 21, also retesting Tuesday's, this May the 6th open. Actually, what you did was you smoked Tuesday's low. You set the low of the week on a Wednesday. At a major inflection point, February's low, and above the 21 exponential moving average on a daily time frame. That would have been a beautiful setup. I would have watched this day's low and waited for price to get back above it. Once it got back above it, I would be a buyer and then use the low of day for my stop. Sometimes I get stopped out. Sometimes I catch pretty close to the low. That would have been a good day to buy. This day would have been a good day to buy too, but you would have gotten stopped out. But it still would have been a good day to buy because you did test that price and you bounced off of it. But, you know, we can never see the future. The fact that it gapped down the next day, that would have sucked if you would have bought calls or something, and because you're opening way under where your strike price is probably. So be careful if you're trading options on Tesla. It's a very volatile stock. It is very volatile. And since you can only trade options during normal market hours, that means you can't do anything once the market closes. You're at the mercy of the market at that point. So if you have a massive gap down and you're in calls at the money, at the close, you're going to be hurting severely bad the next day. So just, you know, you got to learn how to manage your risk. But I mean, as long as you're closing dailies above, I have a bullish bias on Tesla. The weekly looks really good now. So basically, if you do pull back all the way down to $300, I'm not saying that it will, but in the future, if it does, might be a good spot to look to be a buyer. It is an objective price point, being March's high. It's not any other month this year's high. It's only March's high. So that would be a very good line in the sand to look for a pullback to, and to see if potential support builds in here over a period of a couple days. Then one could potentially be a buyer again. But that also goes to this goes without saying, but clearly, if you get a big, huge bearish candle going back down to there, then maybe not, right? You don't want to buy bearish momentum. You want to buy bullish momentum. So what we're seeing like this on Bitcoin on a daily basis, this is not bearish momentum. Like the bears are trying to short the highs, because there are still people out there that I see post on Twitter. They honestly think this is a dead cat bounce still. I think they're on the wrong side of the market. Me personally, I think if you are still bearish, I think you were on the wrong side of history. You should have been a buyer on the. You should have turned into a. At least start putting on risk when you got a weekly oversold S&P 500. That is always a good time to put on at least a little bit of risk. But this is definitely not bearish momentum here. So one way to look at this is buyers are soaking up the bid. Every time the prices get down around previous daily lows, buyers are stepping up. It causes for this sideways choppy stuff, but you're probably not going to get a super deep pullback. And that's typically what you don't want to see also when an asset is bullish. Generally, when an asset is bullish, you get very shallow corrections. And then it takes off to the upside again, and you get a shallow correction. It doesn't always work like that with Bitcoin, clearly. I mean, sometimes you'll get those deeper corrections. Like, this is a perfect scenario to potentially look to be a buyer. Now, obviously, on this day right here, you're closing back under, so you have to be very careful. But at any point, price gets above this day's high, then we would look at this candle as a bear trap. That's a trap. And then we can be a buyer. We can look to scalp. We wouldn't be a buyer on this day. We don't want to buy the high of day. But we can definitely wait for a close down here and then look to be a buyer on the next daily range. Because Bitcoin trades 24/7. And the new daily open happens at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Most everybody's home from work at that point. So you can literally watch Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin at the open of every day. But you need to see this kind of a formation here. So, I mean, will we get that again? Yeah, probably. Eventually, this moving average will eventually start to get up into price. It will start to have an interaction with price again. So maybe if you want to be like a longer term holder, you could wait for that on Tesla or Bitcoin. Good morning, Mr. Tom. How are you doing, my friend? So we're back above the volume weighted average price on Bitcoin today. So this actually turned into a pretty nice trade. Let me make sure okay, good. That's still good. Good. I keep doing that. Let me pull this back up. So this has turned into a pretty nice trade. I don't have any yen, but $830, and I low ticked that 4-hour candle. Low ticked it. That green line is my entry. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, I didn't know that was going to be a winning trade either. And it could literally come back and stop me out. Well, it can't stop me out because I don't have a stop loss. Let me just take profits real quick and then I'll move that stop loss. I'm actually going to set a TP up here above this 4-hour high because we have a bullish engulfing 4-hour candle here. So it's a pretty safe bet that if it's going to remain bullish today, it will get up there and take out that high, right? So I'll put my take profit up there, 102.923. I'll take 75%. That'd be almost a 48.14% return on my money. That is a return on $2,000. So almost $1,000. Not bad. Not bad. And then I will set a stop loss here at 0% because I'm not even playing with this. It's too choppy. You know what I mean? It's too choppy. So there. The only money I can lose on this trade is this $12. and then whatever they charge me to get out on market, which would be with this size leverage and this size of a position, it would be about $50. I can only lose $62 on this trade. Now, that would suck, seeing how the trade is up $863. So naturally, I'm going to keep an eye on it. If prices start to retreat hard, then I will take profits. This scenario will never be a losing trade for me. I put the risk in. I was willing to take the risk then, but now that prices moved in my direction, obviously I don't want to lose all of that unrealized P&L. I do not want to lose that. Oh, we'll see what happens with it. We can watch it on the main monitor. If anybody has any other questions, I will answer them for you, and then we'll wrap this stream up. I just lost a lot of people all of a sudden for some reason. Let me see if something happened over here. Everything looks good. All's good. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I'm not watching anything on the Forex front this week because Aussie kind of has been choppy. Swiss yen was another one that we were watching because it was trading around the yearly opening range down here. So we were very, very interested in this one, but I mean, it's been choppy. It hasn't gone anywhere. Really and truly, it has not gone anywhere. It's gone like 1 point higher. That is nothing. Pound CAD in a range. Choppy. Aussie yen. Now, here's something. Aussie's not bearish today, so is the yen bearish? I mean, bullish? It is. Huh. This might not bode good for the S&P and Bitcoin. Unless it's a short, but I mean, I would want to see this be a short because this has been being traded as a risk off currency. Here's your 2025 open. Remember, Bitcoin rolled over in January and started making lower lows and lower highs in February. Gold went straight up during that same time, and so did the yen. So they were trading it as a risk off currency. So we definitely want to see this come off now if we want to maintain our bullish risk positions or bullish Bitcoin positions. So this might be a short right here. Let me go look on this chart. Let's see what we're doing over here. Okay, that's a 5-minute chart. Okay, so this opens at 6. There's your open of the day. It doesn't, I mean, it's up way off the open, but this does look like a stop run, essentially. So this might be a good short. Maybe. This is the micro yen futures. Well, this one ain't. This is the regular yen futures, but I think there's a micro. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not seeing a micro. Okay, so you would just have to trade the regular yen futures, which, well, I just did it again. I need 6J. As so this is an intraday VWAP once again. So I might, I don't know. I might look to short this. I just got take profit got hit on Bitcoin. My take profit got hit on Bitcoin. We netted 707 on the P&L on that. We're still holding a $525 position with 30x leverage. So we still have an unrealized P&L of 257. So that literally means we cannot lose money on this trade. I'm going to put a new stop loss in. They do a good job of fixing the stop loss to where it stays with the open position size, but I just want to make sure. All right, that's done. So yeah, we're holding here on hourly res. Hourly res is currently holding. This is your highest close. This is the highest closing hourly candle in the daily range, but that's not, it is your resistance if you're trading up here. But since price is unable to close an hourly candle above this hour's candle closure here, this could be a objective place to watch for a potential trade entry. Let's see if we got anything else. So we're midpoint range of last month. We're pretty much on the midpoint of last month. And you have this February's high there. So we'll use a drawing tool. Price level. We'll mark Feb's high. It's not exact. I like to make it exact. So that way I can go drop back down to an hourly time frame and watch that hourly res. You can see exactly what transpired here intraday. So the sellers were setting there. This is also a nice gap. I wish I would have had paid attention to this chart before I started the live stream. I would have sold that more than likely. I would have sold that. So yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on this, and I'll probably, this is a very, very risky thing to do here. You got to be careful because this thing is going to be a lot of risk. I'm not going to take this trade on this small account. I'll take it on my main account if I end up taking it. Because my main account, I can afford the risk. I don't know what a position size on this is. I don't even know if I have enough to take a position size on that. I generally like to trade micros on that, but there aren't any micro yen. Here's back to the 30-minute time frame. So you can see this was that 4-hour high. That was my target, profit target. Got it. So we're out of that trade. We're still in it, but the risk is mitigated. Am I still holding space? Yeah, in a long-term portfolio. Yeah. I thought I closed it, but I just looked at it. It's still there. Yep. And it is a huge loss. 50%, well over 50%. Way over. I don't like it anymore. I mean, they don't make money. This thing's been split and I don't know. I can only see one split there. I figured it had many splits. That's a reverse split also. That's never a good sign. I wouldn't buy this. I mean, I'm expecting it to go to zero. It wasn't a very big position size. But it's all good. I mean, I don't really, most of my time isn't really spent in the portfolio of, just buy and hold. I just buy stuff and hold it with the risk managed. As long as I'm willing to risk it, then whatever. If it ever pops back up there, I don't know. I'll probably get out. But if it goes to zero, I'm okay with that also. Obviously, space hasn't done anything for a long time because there hasn't been any like dramatic improvements on the company. Like they haven't had any really big breakthroughs. They're still struggling as a company. I mean, think about it. Who has the money to go to space? Not many people, but I don't even know if they're in that process yet. They just take some women up to space not too long ago, but they were all like famous people. Katy Perry was involved in it or something. I mean, that's good that they made it up there and back down safe, but even that's not really putting a bid under this thing. I would leave it alone. I don't, until they get some kind of good news or something. I was buying it based off of a technical level alone, and it wasn't a trade. It was just a buy. But that was a very bad trade. Oh, that was Blue Origin. See, it's not even the same company. Yeah, I don't know what's gone wrong with this company, but it's not a great business model. It's not a big position. You know what I'm saying? I just bought a few shares of it a couple years ago when it came to a longer term support level at around $10. But you can see it just dropped right through that. And this was post split, so it's even worse than that. And that was a 1-to-20 split. Now, this would be literally trading for like 20 cents right now. It's in bad shape. Very bad shape. That is a scratch. Yeah. That's a scratch. Can you have a look at Litecoin? Yeah. I'll just generally when I look at these crap coins, I just look at them with Coinbase. It's struggling at the yearly open range. So this is concerning, but if as long as Bitcoin can stay bullish, maybe this can get back above the yearly opening range. We were shorting it up here, but I got stopped out of the position here. I took it on this day, took profits on it, and then the next day, the remainder of the position got stopped out. That always sucks when you're looking at it back in hindsight. That would have been a phenomenal short. But anyways, yeah, it's struggling around the yearly opening range. I would say you have bullish momentum. You do on the daily. You have it on the weekly. You do. Yeah. So basically, the way I would look at this is if it can defend last week's midpoint, then I could be a buyer down here on Litecoin. But just as soon as you close the weekly back under the 50, then I wouldn't be a buyer. I would be exiting. But as long as it can get down here, hold as support in this area, then I could be a buyer again. And it might not even make a run for this midpoint. What you might get, since today's Thursday, I do realize that these things close on Sunday. I would probably wait to see what happens next week. Focus on this week's low, wherever that is right now. It's there at 95.59. But if next week you get an open and then a little peep down under that, like a liquidation, and then it gets to start trading back above that low, that might be a signal to put on a little bit of risk. Because if it can hold the bullish momentum that it currently has, this would be a sufficient 3-bar pattern. So in a sense, a 3-bar pattern is just when you have this, right? This, and that. So you would be buying around the low of the week, and hopefully you get an expansion up. But this is pretty good for that 3-bar advance on a 3-bar formation. But you've already done that. I mean, you've been doing it. So here was bullish. There was your pullback week, bullish expansion, pullback week. Notice how you did exactly what I'm talking about here. Here, look at that. See that? That little bit of white space right there. That's where you would want to be a buyer. Because upon liquidating that previous week's low, there's nothing else for it to do. Boom. So you want to do pretty much the same thing over here, but next week. Right? And that's not saying that this exact thing will happen next week. This thing could close up here this week. You still got 4 days on this. It just depends on where this weekly candle closes out. That would basically shape my trade for Litecoin going on into the next week. If it closes bearish and under 100 spot 23, then I would be focused on 95.59. And that's where I would want to be put on a risk position to the upside, as long as you don't see bearish continuation away from that level. Because if you see bearish continuation away from that level, then you're going to have to wait for a midpoint test or the previous week's high. And then you have old weekly res right there. That's an old weekly resistance. So if you get bearish continuation from 95.59, you might be coming to retest 91.59. Maybe then it'll find support. But at that point, I think you'd be back under the 50 on the weekly, but not the daily. You could potentially be a buyer today on Litecoin because you're testing the bullish. You're currently trading under the 60 on the RSI. So in a sense, this could be a bear trap. It could be in the making right now. Now, I wouldn't buy it where it is. I would have wanted to buy the low of day. And you didn't get a liquidation on the low of day. So I wouldn't have got filled on my limit buy. But I would have wanted to buy this basically the exact same way that I just bought Bitcoin today. Buy it on a liquidation of the low. So that way, if this does end up being a bear trap today, and it does end up closing the day back above the 60, then you would have been positioned nicely for a big run tomorrow. Maybe at least a retest of that 103 spot. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I couldn't be a buyer now. I would have to sit on my hands and wait for next week. Because the trade setup for today would have been down here at the lows. See, like, when you're analyzing, you have to throw away that whole aspect of you think you know what the market's going to do. See, once you guys get there, then you'll start making money. Like, you'll start to see your equity curve bottom out because you'll be more patient on your entries. Right? This also made the low of week. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to be a buyer, you don't want to be a buyer at the highs of the week or a high of day. You're in a sense being a breakout buyer. You want to be a buyer around the low of the week or the low of the month, the low of the day. So you got to wait for that one day when you're testing that low of week or making a fresh low of week. But if it's going to hold this bullish Momo, this will probably close back up into support, back up into 100 spot 12-ish, spot 16. That's your daily support. That's the lowest daily close you have in this sequence of price. If they did buy this up today, you will more than likely close above that today. And I do like this reaction. I mean, you're already trading back above these lows now. Yeah, I mean, I seen this move coming from a mile away. The only thing that did not work for me today was the short on gold. It literally did not work because it did not. It's literally trading at the high of day still. See, this is a short squeeze. This is a short squeeze. You don't really want to be a seller. Like, I wanted to see this liquidation take place at the high of day, and then I wanted to see a bearish reaction. That wasn't a bearish reaction. So I even put in the Discord that I was going to buy Bitcoin, but I didn't love the position because gold wasn't doing what I wanted to see gold doing. If I would have gotten this liquidation and then got, like, say, a 5-minute candle that looked like that, then I would have wanted to be short anywhere around this price. Because more than likely this thing's going back lower. But it did not do that. It did not give me that bearish reaction at all. When it started to look like it was going to give you a bearish reaction, it didn't. Remember, these 5-minute candles are exactly the same as far as how they're built as a daily, as a weekly, as a monthly. They're all the same. Retail is always trying to short the high of day. They short here, they get stopped out here, then they short here. Then they're stopped out there, then they're shorting there. Like, that's not the right way to trade. Until people stop doing that, they're never going to make money. You got to be able to read the chart. At this point, you're not even making lower lows. Like, look at your line chart here. If you have problems distinguishing what the daily trend is, if you're looking at a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, then throw on this thing. Look at each one of these swing lows. Each one is higher. Now, right through here around the New York session, you did make 2 lower lows. But this isn't, like, this is a 5-minute chart, dude. Like, that's not a bearish reaction. That's actually a bull flag. And boom. Because at this point, the longs know the shorts are stuck. They know they're stuck. So it's so easy for them to get upside continuation all day long. Till you get around the end of the day, and then you'll see this line will top out eventually, and then it'll be like this for the rest of the day. And it'll close out the day like around here somewhere. And then you'll have a very big bullish candle on the candlestick chart, on the daily chart. You'll have a very small wick. It'll close around here or something. And then the short trade ain't until you get back up to daily res or supply. I mean, and then you got to see some kind of a bearish reaction there. But like I said, this is still very bullish. This still has bullish momentum in it. It's only just now at the point to where we can start to look for shorts based on the 21 and the 50 on the RSI. But it's still structured very bullish on the weekly time frame. So yeah, not loving it. Bitcoin is looking like if it can close above daily support, that would be good too. And then I would focus on daily support maybe tomorrow for an intraday scalp. That is, of course, if the bulls can hold it. I got so much crap up here. That's actually 4-hour support right there. This is the highest monthly close on Bitcoin. I don't know what that is. So this is also a very big level. It's your highest monthly close of all time. I mean, it looks good. It looks good for upside continuation. It's going to struggle, but we'll see what it does. I would love to see a couple big monthly expansions once we break up above that all-time high. That would be fabulous for anybody that holds Bitcoin long term. But as far as looking for, excuse me, as long as I'm looking for day scalps, also I have to have a bullish bias. And it makes it difficult to have a bullish bias when you're trading up here at the weekly high. I mean, to be fair, today I bought it around the midpoint of the week, but it's hard to be a buyer up here. I get it. You know what I mean? You just have to be able to sit on your hand when that's happening. That doesn't mean you should be a seller. You just have to sit on your hand and wait for an opportunity. You will get one. There's generally a good trading opportunity almost every week out of every year, like 52 times a year. There is generally a really good opportunity. We may have just got, I mean, it may have just happened, unfortunately. But it's easy to analyze candlesticks. Very easy. You can see you can see the emotion literally, like the shorts right here this morning when you got this dump candle, right? This is the New York session open. There's an hourly candle, so 30 minutes into this candle's making, you had the New York session, it dumped. So any pullback up into this candle would be like what? An order block, supply, whatever you want to call it. So focus that open right there is at the high month close. Look at this wick right here. So that would have been a decent short scalp because the range is pretty sizable. I wouldn't have taken it because it was at the low of day. The target would have been the low of day. But I have a bullish bias. I don't want to look, I generally don't want to be a seller when I have a bullish bias. I want to wait for a bullish entry. Because if I am a seller, then at best I will get the low of day trade and then I'll be stopped out. Because when something is trending up, you will likely get stopped out much quicker. That's why you want to try to position yourself for the buy. So that way you can stay in those trades longer potentially. And that's when you will nail like those really good trades when you're able to do stuff like that. You can nail a whole quarter candle. Those are fantastic. But it did ultimately hit that target, but I just felt like something was off. Like it wasn't super bearish. We go into the 5-minute chart. I mean, it was absolutely fabulous. Look at this entry right here. For the short scalp, target low of day right here. Your short is there. Now, you started to get a little bit scared in through here. I give that to you. You know what I mean? Yeah, that would have been a little bit scary. But ultimately, it did hit the target. So it could have been a profitable trade. But I didn't take that. I wanted to be on the opposite side. And it has been a very difficult week also for day traders because it has been choppy. Yesterday was an inside candle, a double inside, right? This is absolutely disgusting. That's an outside candle, an outside bearish engulfing at the high week close. So the sellers, everybody that's shorting this from this day, they were freaking out yesterday if they're still holding the shorts. But how long do you think they're going to hold the short? Say they got it up in here somewhere in this wick. So this would be their short entry and stop loss. Like how long do you think they're going to hold that position? seeing that price was trading well below daily support today. These people that are holding these shorts up here, they want to see today close under this price. And then they'll feel a little bit better about the trade. Just the fact that it's 1, 2, 3 days later after they took entry. Well, we'll call it 4 days because they would have taken entry on this day. So this day plus today makes 4. And they still haven't got the breakdown. That in itself will cause an emotional move. That in itself can cause buying pressure because to exit a short, you have to be a buyer. Because any smart trader is going to know, especially on a sell position, right? Because remember, the emotional trades generally happen when you see the big bearish candles. That's generally when you see that, the emotional trade. This isn't emotional at all. And they're short, so they're on the side of emotion. They need to see emotion, and this isn't bringing any of that emotion in. So they're going to have to start closing this trade out pretty soon. Hopefully they took profits. That's what I always do. I always take profits. So that way, if price does come back against me, I'm out with a win. But I guarantee it, they're sweating this daily range. And they should be, because it did go up there pretty quickly upon liquidating that double bottom. This was your double bottom. These two lows. Liquidated, boom. An hour later, you're almost back up to the open of the day. Not bad. Not bad at all. Liquidation heat map. Let's go look at the actual liquidation. The liquidation map. I like to look at this a little bit better than the heat map. And I like to look at this down here because this is all the exchange. All of them. Not just this one up here is Binance. And I like to look out 1 day, 7 days, and 30 days to kind of see what's going on here. There is more liquidity to liquidate to the upside. Notice how your prices are going up and this is going to the right, but the number's going higher. There's just more liquidity this way to liquidate than there is this way. Nobody even bought it at 102, 101.7. My entry is 101.297. So I actually got in over here, like on this bar right here. That's where I got long. There's nothing here. So, I mean, there's not much for it to liquidate up in here either. But you can see once it gets above that, then you're going to see a potential bigger move there once you start running into those shorts up a little bit higher. And that's on 7-day liquidity. 30-day liquidity looks bad to the upside. Like there's not a whole lot. Like 106.2, maybe 107.1. That's about the end of it. So on the 30-day, there is way more liquidity to the downside. But this thing just moves back and forth like this, right? Until it starts to trend. So 107, 106.1 is where? Right up here. So that'll pretty much exhaust the 30-day liquidity. So there's not many people still holding shorts from the all-time high. All the smart sellers got out down here. Clearly. Like, that's why you're seeing this move happen. All the smart sellers, they got out. They bailed. Generally, to make the market goes down, it's not short sellers. It's not causing that. It's actual people selling their positions. All right. You're welcome. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. I guess if there's no other questions, I mean, we're just gonna wait. We'll see what Bitcoin does in the next couple of days, but it doesn't look like there's a whole lot. But that thing doesn't mean anything, because we were looking at this back when we were bearish, when we were like in the bear throes, and there was like literally zero liquidity left down here, and price was still going down, and it was actually going down big because liquidity was so thin. You were seeing huge ranges. Just because there's not much liquidity up here, there will be by the time price gets up here, because that will cause new liquidity to come into the market, because new people are going to want to jump on short. That will cause liquidity. So just because there's not much right here now today does not mean that Bitcoin cannot go higher. I'm not saying that at all. But on the daily liquidity, it does look like, I don't like to see this stuff. Like these gaps. I don't like that. Now there's a buildup back down to 102.7. So a pullback out to 102.7 would look like what? 4-hour support? No. It's way up here. So it would be a VWAP test, close to a VWAP test. And this candle's midpoint is way down here if you use that low. So yeah, if you want to be a buyer today, maybe watch the intraday VWAP. Once again, you can find that on the left toolbar in the forecasting and measurements in the volume part. Volume, it's just a VWAP. It's a anchored volume weighted average price. You can also type it in as an indicator as well. Anchored VWAP. Oh, that ain't how you spell it. Right there. You can also use that if you want. Just mark it to the open of the day. All right, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe, trade smart, and as always, happy trading, everybody.